guide you into the ancient light of blue smoke, a sophisticated fairy tale set when an ancient ocean covered the Great Smoky Mountains. This is the story of the last mermaid of her lineage, who maintained a lighthouse that transformed song into healing light, living in both worlds but belonging to neither, until a star-guided sailor appeared with his own restless heart. Ancient Light of the Blue Smoke, a folktale of the Great Smoky Mountains. The Cherokee called the Great Smoky Mountains Sakonagay, place of the blue smoke, and named the mountain Haze Ayev, their word for mist. Our folk myth takes place 300 million years ago, when the cloud-topped peaks lay beneath the Iapetus Ocean, a prehistoric sea that preceded the Atlantic. The Appalachian Mountains had formed when the African and North American tectonic plates collided, thrusting the primordial seafloor upward. This faded tale about the last mermaid of her lineage and a star-guided sailor begins as the ancient waters receded, and the veil between worlds was thin. Where the sea is deepest, the songs are oldest, and the mermaids remember them all. The townspeople saw only a distant beacon, unaware its steadfast rose glow softened anger, mended quiet grief, and offered subtle hope. None knew the depths of darkness it held at bay, only sensing faint unease at its rare flicker. No one, not even the guardians, remember exactly what waited should the lighthouse fail, only that shadows stirred hungrily during its brief absence. Deep in the blue mist-veiled peaks of the Great Smoky Mountains lived the last mermaid of her tribe, with her aging mother near the edge of town. Long ago, when the ancient sea covered these Appalachian mountains, her ancestors swam these peaks. As the waters receded, they chose to stay, learning to shift between forms, legs on land, scales in the water. They built this beacon to transform their underwater song into healing light, living in both worlds, but belonging fully to neither. The lighthouse shone from its distant summit, fading as dawn approached. Time for her song to become light. She pushed off from the dock, oars cutting the glassy lake. Behind her, Duke paced the fence line. The wild dapple gray had appeared 3 winters ago, drawn perhaps by the lighthouse song, keeping watch but never coming close. At the mountain's base, she secured her boat and began climbing. Her breath joined the blue smoke of morning, legs burning on the steep switchbacks. She pulled open the heavy wooden door and entered. Despite summer's warmth, frost chased patterns on the stones, a sign the light was weakening. She ascended the stairs to Beacon's Heart, stepping into the shallow water basin carved into the chamber floor. Her first note echoed through the spiral-carved walls. The water responded instantly, tiny lights sparkling beneath the surface. The flashes rose to the lantern room, where the rose-quartz lens transformed them into a steady beam. Morning and evening she sang, maintaining the light, but never achieving the legendary golden brilliance her ancestors once created. The answer waited somewhere in the stones, in the frequencies, in what was yet to be discovered. Light restored, she descended. Life continued between songs. He crouched on the pitching deck, lantern light shifting over salt-crusted planks as he worked. Clean, wrapped, secure. His hands moved with the instinct of a born healer. The deckhand's breathing steadied as the bleeding stopped. The sailor lifted a weathered sextant from his coat. Its brass frame was etched with curling runes, said to carry the echoes of Mermaid's song. He ran his fingertip along the grooves, feeling the hum of generations who'd steered these waters long before the oceans withdrew and the mountains rose from its depths. In every port the story ended the same. The painter in the Mediterranean village who folded her brushes rather than match his wandering soul. A school teacher in the Caribbean closing her classroom door, asking for someone more anchored to land. It wasn't always about the women. Each goodbye had come from a deeper truth. He was made for open seas, star maps, and horizons beyond reach. His compass needle swung eastward. Past the swell, a beam swept from a distant peak. A lighthouse tended by a single voice. "East," he murmured, adjusting course. On a rare trip to the market, hurrying past the shade of the old willow, the sound of banter caught the mermaid's attention. The sailor was just stepping up for his turn at horseshoes, and in that moment, their eyes met. She stopped despite herself. "You have the most irresistible smile," she heard herself say, packages still in her arms. "May I join you?" "Always room for another challenger." Brown eyes caught the afternoon light. Dark hair touched with silver, framing his sun-bronzed face. She set down her packages. Her first pitch landed clean, a ringer. Her competitive spirit and quick wit made him laugh, drawing her in further. After the clink of the last shoe, they sat on a nearby bench. He noticed the translucent stone suspended from her necklace. "What's this?" His fingers brushed the stone. The crystal flared to life. "Rose quartz." She met his gaze. "A stone of self-love, compassion, and inner peace." His eyes held hers. "Beautiful," he said simply. "I need to finish my errands and get back before sunset," she said, stealing a bashful glance. "Thank you for letting me join. Next time you're in town, you can find me where the mountains meet the water." Her red hair disappeared into the crowd. She was the lighthouse keeper, the last mermaid. The lore of her kind was passed down through generations of sailors, etched into brass and memory. That night she hurried to her mother's cottage. "The sailor who heals the seafarers and navigates by stars was at the market today." Her mother set down her knitting, silver hair catching the lamplight. "Ah, yes, I know his family. I sang ocean lullabies to his great-grandfather once. Pulled him from fever dreams after a wreck." The mermaid sensed a faded connection that hummed across the ages. No sailor sails so far that he forgets the sound of a mermaid's song. She couldn't recall the last time a sailboat had appeared in their mountain lagoon. At the garden's gate she stopped, awestruck by white sails against blue smoke and autumn sky. She dropped her basket and ran to the small dock, red hair streaming behind her. "You came." "Thought I'd take you up on that invitation." He tied off the last rope and looked up at her with an easy smile. "Perfect timing." Her face bright with joy. "I was just about to harvest the herbs before frost. Come help?" As they worked side by side in the hazy, slanted light, he showed her which roots to leave for spring regrowth, which seeds to save, his practice hand evident in every careful cut. "Calendula for wound healing." He filled her basket. "Echinacea for winter strength. Your garden has everything a healer could want." She bundled stems to dry, absorbing his wisdom, pink dust coating her fingertips. He caught some in his palm, watching them sparkle. "You been working with stones?" She met his curious gaze. "I'm creating something with rose quartz below the lighthouse. Maybe next time I'll show you." When the sun dipped low, he gathered his things. "I'll be back through these waters before winter sets in. Maybe then." She smiled. Maybe then. The cold months had arrived. Frost coated the misty blue mountains. Ice edged the lagoon. The mermaid was spreading fresh hay by Duke's shelter when finally his sails appeared. "You're here." Smiling, he glanced up from tying the lines. "Later than I promised. The northern passages held me longer than expected." She led him towards the fence line. "This is Duke. 3 winters he's been here. Still won't let anyone touch him." He studied Duke in silence. Didn't reach right away. Waited patiently, hands still. Slow and quiet, he pulled a ship's biscuit from his coat and broke it in half. Duke halted, ears forward, watching. He held his ground, motionless. Didn't speak, just offered one piece in his open palm. The horse inched forward, hooves crunching the snow. He hesitated once, then stretched his neck and took it, teeth brushing skin. The sailor's eyes softened slightly. A single nod, quiet but satisfied. "Do you want to try?" Handing her the other half. She stepped forward, cautious but calm. Duke looked at her, then at him, then back again. This time, Duke didn't back away. He breathed over her hand and took the offering, as if he'd been doing it all his life. "How'd you know he'd take it from you?" He shook his head. "Didn't. Just stay quiet and let him decide." She glanced at the fading light across the blue Smoky Mountains. "The sun sets early now. I want to show you my evening ritual at the Lighthouse." They crossed the lake and climbed the mountain path. Passing the waterfall, she paused to fill her vessel from the pool at its base. It never freezes, even in the deepest winter. At the lighthouse, its stone walls dark against the twilight, she pushed open the heavy wooden door. They made their way up the spiral stairs to Beacon's Heart. She poured the water into the shallow basin carved into the floor, then stepped in. "This is where I stand each dawn and dusk." She began to sing. The water responded instantly, sparkling beneath her feet as her voice wove through the ancient patterns. Light streamed through the opening to the lens above. He watched, silent, as her voice filled the chamber. The song continued, weaving through melodies he'd never heard, until at last her voice faded into stillness. Stepping from the basin, she said, "The first keepers created a legendary golden light, said to heal both hearts and sea. No one has recreated it since." The first flurries had begun to fall when they emerged, snow caught in her red hair as they lingered by the lighthouse door. He reached to brush a flake away, and their eyes met. She leaned in, certain, but he caught himself and pulled back. "We should get back before the snow picks up," he said. In the oldest seas, sailors say, the song of a mermaid can mend what time forgets. Duke kept his winter watch until the ice finally broke. A misty blue smoke blurred the water's surface as his sails crossed into the lagoon on a spring morning. From the dock, the mermaid watched in hushed anticipation while he tied off and stepped ashore. They looked at each other. She tilted her head towards the lighthouse. An invitation. He nodded. Together they made for the rowboat. Inside, she traced weathered walls until her fingers found the hidden latch. The concealed door ground open, releasing a scent of lamp oil and ancient stone. Lantern held high, she descended first, leading him downward. Its glow revealed the vault, lined with countless memory stones, rose quartz tiles shimmering like constellations. Yet many gaps remained empty, the unfinished work clear. At the far wall stood an ivory vial suspended above a bronze dish. She checked its slow, steady drip. "When I die, the oil runs dry. Water floods this chamber, awakening these stones. Each one will hold my voice, recreating the song beneath the water. The light will rise through the hollow shaft that runs from this vault to Beacon's Heart, the same path my living song takes now." He knelt beside her, picking up an uncut crystal. He turned it thoughtfully in the lamplight. She placed a polished tile in his palm, tapping it. A single pure note filled the quiet. He tapped another, then another. Understanding lit his face. She picked up her diamond-tipped tool and carved into the next crystal. Pink dust settled on her hands, working deep into the lines of her palms. Half the vault remains empty. She looked at the unfinished space. "I wonder if I'll have time to finish." This was more than craftwork. Each tile was part of the light that would outlive her voice. Without thinking, the Seal Wife song surfaced. Cut on the first note, file on the second, smooth on the third. "Seal wives?" he asked. They lived between water and shore, never fully belonging to either. She began to hum, the tune steady and low. He joined her without thinking, their voices falling into unison. The stone between them shuddered, pulsed, then blazed. Light flooded through the vault. Every placed tile glowed brighter with their combined voices. The radiance moved through her, not just warmth, but something loosening from within. Across from her, she watched years soften from his face. The tiles had never responded like this before. "We should try it in Beacon's Heart." She took his hand, leading him towards the stairs. She stepped into the basin, mountain cold water splashing her ankles. He paused at the edge, She reached out. He took her hand. They sang, and the light transformed into a brilliant, warm, golden rose. The lens overhead blazed with radiance she had never achieved before. For the first time in generations, the beacon shone in its full power. This light didn't just guide ships, it opened hearts. Their voices faded slowly, the last note lingering like the blue smoke before dawn. "What did we just do?" he whispered. She touched the water. It shimmered amber. "We did it," she said in disbelief. "All this time searching in stones and frequencies, the answer was in harmony itself." "We should go. Your mother will worry." Night watch, mid-channel. He stitched a deckhand's torn palm by lantern light, the ship rolling under a moonless sky. When the final knot cinched, the lantern flickered, casting coral light across the glass. He reached into his pocket, fingers finding the small piece of rose quartz he'd kept from the vault, warm against his palm. Their voices harmonizing in that crystal chamber came flooding back. "You all right, Doc?" His gaze drifted to the compass. North towards the next port meant another tavern, another name quickly forgotten. East meant her. Wind filled the canvas. He eased the wheel a point to starboard, then another. The helmsman frowned. He pretended not to notice. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the beacon called. He told himself he could correct course at dawn. Weeks later, as the mermaid and her mother sat watching the light move across darkening waters, the older woman spoke of their deeper purpose. "When the waters began to recede, our people faced a choice. We could retreat with the ocean or adapt. Your ancestors built this lighthouse to continue what we'd always done, guide sailors home, just in a new way." Her mother traced the air where blue mist met light. "In the ancient sea, our songs traveled through water to every living thing. But when the waters left, air couldn't carry our voices the same. So we embedded rose quartz in the living lens, living crystal that transforms song into light. No one alive remembers what these mountains were like before the rose light began. The old songs speak of shadows that moved against nature, of a hungry darkness that whispered discord into hearts. We hold back with light and song, always have. You sing alone what was meant for two voices. But you weren't alone in that vault, were you?" "No," the mermaid replied. "And the sailor?" Her mother smiled. "Perhaps his purpose is to heal across many waters, not to be anchored to one shore. We each have our part to play." Later that summer, sun beat down on the deck as he showed her his boat, explaining each sail and rope with boyish enthusiasm. She traced the worn wood where countless hands had gripped during storms, understanding his delight in the boundless ocean. "Want to see something?" she asked, then dove from the dock. In the water she transformed, scales shimmering rose gold, coral shifting with each graceful movement. He leaned over the rail, mesmerized. She floated effortlessly on her back. "This is when I feel truly myself. Everything else just falls away." He stared, amazed, as she dove again, breaking the surface in arcs around his boat, laughing at his stunned expression. They spent the rest of the day together, easy in each other's company. The second night he couldn't sleep. He walked to the dock for air, where he heard soft crying. "I'm sorry." She wiped her face when she saw him. "I didn't mean for anyone to—" "Don't apologize." He sat beside her, close but not touching. "Sometimes the weight of it all is too much." She looked out at the night water, the half-empty vault. What happens when the singing stops? No one knows. He brushed a strand of red hair from her tear-stained face, then took her hand and held it. They sat like that until the lighthouse beam swept over them once, twice, 3 times. Perhaps what saves isn't the shore, but the song that calls you back. His last evening, As dusk settled over the water, he was securing his boat when music drifted from the town festival. Fiddle and accordion, faint but clear. "One dance before you go?" He hesitated, then took her hand. They swayed to the distant melody. His hand rested light on her waist, hers on his weathered jacket. The veil between them dissolved like blue mist. They surrendered to the rhythm for a moment in time. The music softened into silence. They held each other a half a beat longer before sitting on the dock's edge. He gazed at the horizon. The familiar endless waters called, yet tonight a different current pulled. "There's a research vessel heading to the northern passages. They need a healer who can also navigate by the stars, mapping the Arctic channels before they freeze. 2 years, maybe more." She felt her heart drop, but kept her voice steady. "When?" "The expedition leaves in 2 weeks from the northern port, but it's a 2-week sail to get there. I have to leave tonight." "It's good work. Important." She steadied her hands in the dimming light. "I want to tell you something. I like it when you visit here. I have to stop myself from hoping to see your sails every time I look at the water. I'd never ask you to trade the sea for shingles and pasture. But your compass could rest here every now and then. We could share meals when you're here. Together we could complete the vault. But even if you never sang another note with me, I'd still like to have you around more. I'm sure Dick would too." The silence stretched between them, thick with everything unspoken. Silver light fractured on the water's surface. At sea, problems had edges. A torn sail, a broken bone, a storm to weather. Fixed and done. But this would change the shape of everything, make simple things complicated. "The full moon is calling. How can we stay ashore?" he said at last. "The lighthouse stays, its beam unwavering." She smiled faintly. Her heart didn't miss the shift. He turned truth into poetry so easily. They embraced as if memory alone would have to be enough. He stepped back and boarded the ship. She didn't understand what had shifted, or why he pulled back. She thought she'd seen it in his eyes, felt it in the vault. Maybe she was wrong. He moved through his final checks, fingers brushing the rose quartz in his pocket, the stone pulse warm against his chest, matching the beacon's rotation. He pressed his palm against it through the fabric. The lighthouse beam swept over him as he left the Mermaid's lagoon. His ship appeared once more in the soft glow, the sails briefly gleaming with reflected light before fading into night. Duke remained at the fence line until the ship vanished into the distance. Hours passed before her mother found her at the dock's edge and rested an arm around the mermaid's shoulders. "Do you regret telling him?" "No, but I wonder, did I ask too much? You love because it's your nature. But loving means accepting that some people walk beside you for a time. Others sail away." She pulled the mermaid closer. "You're already complete within yourself. True love is letting someone be exactly who they are, without expecting them to stay or change. That's freedom for both of you." Wrapped in the blue smoke, the sea whispered peace, while the beacon promised tomorrow's dawn. The lighthouse shows the way, but the mermaid's song makes the heart believe it.